Hi, this is Cindy from Part-Time Permies, and today I'll give you a little update on the garden. As you can see behind me, the squash part of the Three Sisters is doing very well. And as you can hear, Lucky now has an adult voice, at least sometimes. Okay, so our watermelon plants are starting to wilt out a little. We had some dry weather. I'm going to water them again tonight, but we have two watermelons that are actually looking pretty good, so we might pick one this week and see how it is. We have, and I'm trying to remember which melons those are. They're cantaloupe or honeydew. We have more over here, a couple different types. So those are coming along, lots of fruit. This big, huge mess, we're just starting to get some mildew on the pumpkin plants, but you can see it's going nuts. In fact, it's actually growing outside the garden over there. The sunflowers over here, a couple of them made it, not many, but we'll have to harvest some of those heads here soon. And if you look inside underneath, we do have a number of pumpkins. So oops, you can see that. So I think we're going to have more pumpkins than we know what to do with. But that's all right. Can always feed some to the chickens. Now over here, the corn is actually doing a little bit better now. We probably had, we're definitely on a late start, but had a 2/3 germination rate. Actually, interesting thing, the corn over here with all the squash, we have summer squash on the back end and winter squash on the front end. This is growing a lot faster than over here with the melons, so that's interesting. My beans, I didn't get in and keep watered enough, so again, we are in very limited rain. I think we've had 4 decent days of rain all summer. But the winter squash, what I thought was Hubbard, is actually I believe that's a turban squash, so that'll be interesting. There's a bigger one over here, so just to give you a reference, it's getting pretty big. So, and that's going nuts as well, going off to other beds. My zucchini, I'm letting one go to seed over here. I have one, looks like it needs to get pulled over here, just about. So I've got one here. And we have some crookneck summer squash over here. Again, gonna let that big one go to seed. And then we have some others developing. You can see some in here and definitely some over there. So those are doing well. The eggplant is doing well, other than we had a slug issue for a little bit. The slugs kept eating our eggplant fruit. These are a nice variety that are just a small type. They get a couple inches long and about 1 inch wide, so I could pick some of those here soon. And this is more of your Italian standard eggplant here. Catnip in back of the bed is going nuts, attracting bees as it should. This looks like it's a root. I actually don't know what that is. I'll have to pull it a little later. It might be a turnip. So we have our lavender right there. We still have some potatoes on the back side of this. We still have mustard greens over here, which is starting to bolt at the top. I pulled the potatoes out of here and the garlic. And what I did was I put some bean seeds in here for fall. And I think we should have just enough time to start getting a harvest. And if we need to, we can put some plastic over it if we get some early frost. but that way we can at least add a little more nitrogen to that bed until it really gets ramped up and going. But so this whole end here has a variety of beans, bush beans. That's another lavender plant, and down there we have a spearmint plant. Our tomatoes, I just put beans a little bit around those again. They had a hard time of it initially because of the dry weather and some hornworms, but this one's starting to actually show a little more growth, and we still have some flowers up top here, so that I think we'll get more fruit as we go. I need some longer stakes because this thing is definitely growing again. But this one just started giving us some ripe tomatoes, so give another day or two on some of these and they'll be ready to pick. Peppers. Okay, they look sad. Peppers, for some reason, did not like this year. Some of them, like this is a Thai chili, and it's got some peppers on it. It's doing all right. We have basil, which is all right. Again, the tomato plant, I pruned it back significantly, but some hornworms got to it and things, so it's just bouncing back from that. I've been pulling them off as I see them, and now that it's so pruned back, it's actually easier to see if there's hornworms. But again, a couple of those are just about to ripen up. I've picked a couple of those already. My cherry tomato, again, this one is the most recent one that had a hornworm on it. And I didn't even see it, but you can see evidence of it. It just strips everything. So I don't know where that hornworm is, but it did this plant in pretty well. Of course, I let my radishes bolt, so I haven't pulled those out yet. My peas over here have basically, I was going to say stop producing, but there's one. We should plant some more peas. Those were the first peas. And we did have some shilling peas down here. These are snap peas. Shilling peas really only grew a foot and then died off. So our heat and lack of water has really affected things quite a bit. We're supposed to get some rain this week. Hopefully we do. So, but the pumpkins, well, hi there, baby. The pumpkins and the squash just love this weather. Okay, so no, I did not mean to let the chicks into the garden, but they seem to be going for bugs more than fruit right now. There's a couple holes in the fence that I need to mend up, and need to do that before I put more fall stuff in here, because I don't need them eating the seeds. But you can see here what I did with the prunings, because some of them had tomatoes on the clippings. I just planted them in. I put a drip line around the bases. Some of these I think are actually going to take off, so that might actually work for some fall tomatoes. Otherwise, I'm just letting them ripen on the vine here and pull off as needed. So obviously I don't think that plant will survive this. And they do need some water again, so I'll put some more water in here. Turn on that hose. Silly birds. Okay, so I think some of these plants might pull through for some more fall tomatoes, but really I was, instead of just throwing away the clippings from the tomato plants over there, I just decided to put them in the ground, see what they did. So we like to experiment around here. Oh, this plant I like. It's an interesting one. I haven't tried it yet. It's borage. So I haven't, you can eat it. I haven't tried it yet. A lot of people use the flowers in salads. I hear it tastes like cucumber. And you can make tea out of the leaves. You can boil the leaves when they're bigger like this and eat them. They're actually kind of fuzzy, furry. I did plant this. Not many of them came up, again, probably because of the drought. But this is actually, we have this plant. We have a plant over here. They're kind of falling over. They're a little top heavy. And we have a couple more down there that seem to be doing all right. They do attract the bees as well, so they're good for bringing in pollinators, and they're just starting to open up. Now, I did read a little bit about them. They do have some additional uses, so I might make another little video on what I've read about them. But there is another plant that you can confuse it with that we don't have around here. In fact, this plant is native to the Mideast, so it's not native around here either. But also in the Middle East, and I think around like the Mediterranean area, there's a plant called mandrake, which is sometimes used for medicine, or it used to be, but it's basically a narcotic. So you don't really want to use that, plus it'll cause hallucinations and such. So you're not going to eat that every day. In fact, people have been sent to the hospital because they ate mandrake instead of borage. They just confused the plants. So if you have mandrake in your area, watch out for that. So we've picked some of these. It's pak choi and Asian greens. There's some bugs eating them as well. But we have been eating some. Those are actually the only greens that really took off for me this year. Although we'll try some for fall. Over here, this is a new one we've tried, and it just started flowering. So that's a bean, but it's actually a heirloom baked bean. So actually we have some beans, baby beans forming, if you can see that down in there. That's kind of cool. So this is a heirloom baked beans. We have, I think, Japanese beetles or something are eating some of the leaves, but not horribly. Part of the reason I wasn't really forcing the chickens out of here. Next to it, okay, so anything with a white flower, I think, is the baked bean. Actually, some of these might be, we have some yellow beans in here. Yeah, these have purple flowers or pinkish flowers. So a few of those took off, not many. They were older seeds. And I did put more over by the hugelkultur. We have some purple beans that we're trying as well. And they're just now flowering as well. So we might get a few of those, but I'm hoping we'll get more before the frost hits. So these are a fun one. So these baked beans, those are definitely going to be fun to try. And we definitely have a good bunch of them in there. Over here, I pulled kind of wacky job of pulling the tomatoes up off the ground a little bit because I let them go wild. And the plants are huge, very bushy. I'll probably have to trim out some of the middle, but I was just trying to get the tomatoes down here up off the ground because they get eaten if they're on the ground. And we had a couple hornworms over here. I don't see any right now, but I keep pulling them off as I see them and kill them. I did not stake my tomatillos this year, and they seem to be doing absolutely fine with not much trying to eat them. So I just keep pulling these basically hooded fruit when they've basically about filled the hood. So I don't know if there's any. Yeah, this one's pretty close. So this one is just slightly loose around the fruit, about that size or even a little more full. I'll pull them off. And the fruit is in the middle. And there's lots of things you could do with tomatillos, but one of the most well-known is salsa verde, which is good. So we have lots of tomatillos coming. We have some volunteer potatoes, which, well, actually they're probably just potatoes that we missed last year. One of the ones that's still going strong is this one in the corner. I think there's a second little one down there. So that one's doing all right. I won't pull it until it starts dying. That's basically our main bed. And our others, I really didn't do much of anything to our raised bed area. Show you over here. So we have the strawberries. So this is my jungle. We have the strawberry plants in the raised bed over there, which are doing well. We actually have ragweed, if you want. This is edible, but a lot of people have seasonal allergies when it's in bloom like this. that is lamb's quarter, so that's edible. The purple flower back there is hairy vetch, and that I don't think is edible. But all over this garden, and you can see, we have volunteer tomatoes, and a ton of them ripening up. So we may not have many ripened up in our main garden, but look at all of these red tomatoes. They almost look like a cross between a cherry and a Roma, at least in size. We had a volunteer potato plant over here. We actually have a couple volunteer tomatillo plants in there as well, but they're mainly tomatoes. And of course we have plantain seeds everywhere now as well. So my wild garden, I might pull some of the weeds around these tomatoes and put in some lettuce, some different greens. So we'll put the greens next to the tomato plants for the fall garden. As the tomatoes finish up, we should start getting those. And frankly, knowing tomatoes, as long as there's still fruit on the plant, even if the plant looks like it's dying off, the fruit will still ripen up and produce. So I've harvested tomatoes in New York, north of New York City, all the way through like the end of October, just by leaving the plants in the ground still and pulling the tomatoes as they ripen, even though there's hardly any leaves left on the plants. So you could keep going with tomatoes for a long time into the cold. I do try to get them out before the first hard frost, but that's about it. So I just watch the weather in the fall. But that is the garden update. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please like, subscribe, comment below, and I'll see you with the next video.